Hey guys, it's Misty, athlete mental health coach and author of the Athlete Mental Health Playbook. So today we're going to talk a little bit about how to overcome self-criticism. So here's the thing, how do you know when self-criticism is bad and how do you know when self-criticism is helpful? Because that can be a really fine line, can it? Between I want to keep myself motivated, I have goals, I have things about myself that I want to change or improve upon. That's a good thing, right? Like we want to have those goals. No one is going to be perfect. I'll get to that more of that in a second. And so we want to have things that we're continuing to improve upon. However, on the other side, I think it's really common for people also to be overly critical. Again, this can happen for a number of different reasons. But let's say that you're someone who is constantly beating yourself up, right? And you're constantly wanting more of yourself. It's never good enough. And that makes you feel really bad and that makes you really feel stressed out. Maybe that sends you into a feeling of depression because you feel like you should be all these things that you're not, right? And so that's what I want to talk about today. I want to talk about that piece of when you're so critical of yourself that it's actually causing disruption in your life because you're feeling so down on yourself and maybe you're not able to perform at work, which is for most, we're talking athletes here, so we're talking on the field, but maybe that also means that you are having a hard time at home or maybe in these other endeavors that you're doing in the off season or in your off time, and there's sort of that self-doubt and that criticism of never being good enough is getting in your way. So the number one thing that we're going to address today is this idea that you have to be perfect. And for so many people that I know, especially those type A go-getter personalities, especially I've noticed too, people that deal with anxiety, they have this strive to constantly be better and be achieving and doing more and being perfect because that makes them feel safe, right? And doesn't makes them feel like maybe there's not all these issues and things going on that cause them to feel worried or anxious or whatever. So they want that control, in other words. So control is a really big piece of that, wanting to be perfect. And whatever it is that's behind that for you is something that's, we have to do in some self-discovery exercises. But for today, what I want you to know is it's time to let go of this idea that you have to be perfect. And so I can tell you all day long how to just tell yourself, okay, I'm going to just tell myself I don't have to be perfect, and that's some kind of magic light switch. But here's the thing, you have to really feel it, right? And you have to connect with it. So how do you do that? How do you become okay and feel safe when you're not perfect, meaning that things can go awry or you're gonna make mistakes or like any number of things can happen, and then beating yourself up over those things happening because you should have seen them happening or coming, or you should be better than that. And that's what we want to get rid of. So keeping in mind that if you think of even the person that you admire the most in this world, I guarantee you they've made mistakes, because that's just part of being human, right? Even in these videos, you see me trip up over my words all the time, and that's part of my charm. But it's also a part of this idea of something that I've had to work through of I don't have to be perfect, and people actually, they relate to that and they vibe with that, right? So that's just one example. And you have to become comfortable in loving yourself exactly where you are, and that's what's really underneath all of this, right? Is becoming comfortable with. And you might say, oh yeah, I love myself and I think I'm cool, but when you're striving for perfectionism and you're striving for these things that you're being really self-critical of, you're not in a state of loving yourself. Just point blank, period. There's no other way around it. So you can love yourself and you can think you're the bomb and this and that and talk all this talk in front of all these people and post all this stuff on the gram and wherever else. But for you to really feel it, that's going to stop that self-criticism, because you're going to say, you know what? I love my imperfections. Oh my God, is that uncomfortable for you to say it? Try it right now. I love my imperfections. Super uncomfortable sometimes, right? But it actually feels good in a way too, because we're admitting to ourselves, you know what? I'm gonna screw up, but at the end of the day, I'm still all these other things that I really love about myself. And if there's something about myself that I just really, really don't love, and it eats at me day after day after day after day, then guess what? You have the power to go and change it. But the thing is that you can't control and change every little piece about you, right? I mean, kind of a sidebar here. This is sort of what a lot of these industries today are built off of, looking a certain way and feeling a certain way and presenting yourself in a certain way and just coming off as like this perfect thing. And that's crap, right? And again, that's why I post these really imperfect videos, because I think that's so much more real. And for me, again, personally, it's also a practice in being imperfect and just putting myself out there and being that way. And so not just practicing telling myself I'm okay with being imperfect, but living that a little bit more, having the ability to laugh at yourself when things go awry a little bit. So again, thinking of that, you can do affirmations and just focus on your imperfections. Maybe you have a fingernail, just something little, like let's say you have a fingernail that's crooked or something for some reason, or you have an injury that maybe your nose is a little bit crooked, or whatever it is, you have a scar here or there, you know what, just saying, okay, I have 5 abs instead of 6, or I'm just kidding, but whatever it is that comes out to you, whatever it is that comes out, focus on sending love to that specific area. Again, it might sound really silly and it might sound really corny, but that overly self-critical stuff that makes you feel like shit, it's because you're not extending love to yourself in that area. And if you're watching this video right now, see, again, making mistakes, but if you're watching this video right now, it's because it's something that you want to let go of. So that's what I want you to do. I want you to practice on sending love to those areas, all right? And every time you find yourself criticizing yourself, I want you to find 2 things that you can compliment yourself on, right? So yes, that's right too. Not 1 for 1, because the negative stuff often outweighs the good stuff in most people's minds. So what we want to do is create more. Okay, so here's 1 thing that I'm going to be critical of myself of, and then here's 2 things that actually I'm going to say I'm really proud of myself of, because I'm also willing to bet that you have been through the fire more than once. I'm willing to bet that you have survived all that because you're here right now, right? I'm willing to bet on you, and that if something were to happen, that you can bet on yourself, right? So these are all the things that we want to look at when we're looking at self-criticism. Again, it's getting away from this notion of control, of being perfect. It's making ways to allow ourselves to feel comfortable being right where we are with those imperfections, and sending love to whatever those imperfections are. Again, if something really, really bothers you, let's say maybe, God forbid, you have like a really big health issue, then you can send, you can certainly work to change that, but it doesn't mean that in that process of where you're working to change that, by the way, that you can beat yourself up for, man, if I wish I would have never given up on my habit of running X many miles a day, because now I'm dealing with blah, 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 blah. It's just an example, but not being critical of yourself, saying instead, flipping that and saying, you know what, I'm proud of myself that I'm going to address this now, and I am going to take this day by day, every single little baby step, and I'm going to celebrate it. So celebrate the small stuff, right? Send love to the stuff that you don't love about yourself. And if it is something that bothers you day in and day out, and maybe it's something that's unhealthy, then go ahead and work towards changing that, but don't beat yourself up in the process. And remember, you're not perfect. There is something that every single person on this planet can work towards improving every single day. And I mean that not to put pressure on you, but I mean that in a way of, look at your idols, look at these people who you think are perfect, and I guarantee you they have things that they're probably gonna try and work on, because that's just part of being human. It's just part of the human experience. So if you're gonna be human, you're gonna be imperfect, and that's the bottom line here, guys, all right? So let go of this need to control. Instead, send love in that area, let go, release, just breathe, and know everything's going to be all right. All right, guys. So if you want more resources on this, you want more help, you want to work with me one-on-one, head over to purposesoulathletics.com/resources. Again, that's purposesoulathletics.com/resources. I got a bunch of stuff there for you to check out. Most of it is absolutely free. So make sure you go and check that out. And I look forward to speaking with you soon. Thanks.